Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Dave Warner, creative director of Atmosphir, and this is yet another Atmosphir Forecast podcast episode. This is episode number 3. I'm doing quite a few of these over the past couple of weeks, and sounds like they've gotten a good reaction from the community, and it's a good way to sort of quickly, talk about all the different things that are going on with Atmosphir, update you guys on what's going on, as well as answering your questions and getting your feedback and all that fun stuff. So, going to go through a bunch of different things. First, we'll talk about the desktop launch, and then we'll talk about the image that Martin posted in the forums recently, and then I'll move on to a few Q&A questions that you guys had. But this Tuesday night, we had a surprise desktop launch. We really didn't announce it at all or give any advance notice, but we just basically put it out there, added a download link and page, and people started testing it and checking it out. And I think it works really well. I think it was good to do it that way. It was more of a surprise. It was more of people sort of didn't see it coming, and it was there was definitely genuine excitement within the launch threads. People talking about how great it was running and working, and very excited about it. This is something people have been asking for such a long time, and so the reception was overwhelmingly positive. I'd say everyone was really excited about it and loved it, and it just gets over a lot of technical barriers that I honestly think a lot of people had playing the game. At least reading through your guys' threads, this new version runs really smoothly. It plays great, design's great, and people are playing with full settings and shadows and everything on some lower end systems, and it's great to hear that. I mean, I think that moving into the web was of course a great move and allowed us to make things a lot more accessible to people. But just the performance you get, particularly for a more hardcore Atmosphir user, which are probably the type of people that are listening to this podcast right now, I think the desktop version just gives that to you, and it's really lets you experience the game at the best quality you possibly can. Where I think when you're running the desktop, when you were running the game and the browser at the same time, is sort of slowing things down. So unfortunately, that could be an issue. And as I said in other podcasts, as technology gets better and better, that'll change in the future. But anyway, it's really exciting to see that. And I think people are sort of rediscovering Atmosphir all over again because who had those sort of technical issues, and they're seeing, wow, I can design these absolutely enormous levels without any lag, or I can play these giant levels or play these experiences and play them smoothly, not in my computer crash or anything like that. It's great to see that, and we're giving it as an option. We will continue to support the web version and the desktop version. It's mainly just what's your preference and how do you want to play the game. And if you really are going for performance, then desktop is certainly the way to go. So that's up there. We added the download link. There'll be some announcements in the next couple of weeks about some other downloading stuff, or other places to download the desktop client, the final version of it. Once we get that, you might have to download a few new launchers and things like that in the next few weeks if you are a early beta tester with that, but just be on the lookout for that. And of course, we want you to report as many bugs as possible because you guys have all sorts of different operating systems out there and configurations, and what might work for our computers might not work for yours. And there's I've already gotten a lot of different emails or seen things in the bugs, the bug forum, particularly about different issues that people are having, and the guys are solving them all the time. You'll notice that there's updates going up every day. The game is auto-updating itself with some new stuff. So we're listening to your feedback and trying to fix those issues as soon as possible. I know one thing is the filtering system. I think there's something going out today that's going to add XP levels as well as levels of the day back into the mix. So I think that's coming out today. I know that was a big concern of mine, is making sure, wanting to get that out because you always want new and fresh and great levels to play, and it was showing some pretty old levels and not updating enough and not showing all the XP levels. So I think that's important for it to have the same functionality as the website, of course. But so yeah, anyway, that's all I'm going to say about the desktop launch. I'm very excited about it, and I think in the coming months it's just going to get better and better as we add new stuff into it. So very cool. Next, we'll move on to Martin's coming soon image. So I don't know if all of you saw this, but in the forums, Martin posted a coming soon picture that said, coming soon in 2011, and it had sort of a darker feeling to it. It had alien-like creatures and dragons and stuff like that on one side, and then Space Marine type characters on another side, and there were spaceships in the background, and they were carrying guns, and there were explosions and all this stuff. And it definitely garnered a very huge response in the forums. The pages, just as soon like an hour, it already had 4 or 5 pages worth of responses to it. And it was, people being very passionate from both sides of the table. Some really didn't like it. They didn't think that it fit within the world of Atmosphir. This is going the wrong direction. What are you guys doing? If you do this, I'm going to leave, all this stuff. And others really did love it and wanted it in the game as soon as possible and, looked forward to sort of new content coming in whatever shape and form that is. But, this is concept art. It's meant to evoke an idea rather than an exact interpretation. So not everything you see on that screen means that it's going to get those exact things are going to get into the game or look exactly the way that they do. It's more the meaning to evoke a certain emotion or idea. And that's sort of what that concept art was going for, is sort of thinking about some new gameplay styles and themes and content in the future. So I won't speak exactly to what's on the way. I'm not going to say, yes, this specific alien enemy is coming out, or no, spaceships are not coming out. I'm not going to say anything like that because right now it's very much in the planning stages and development stages, and nothing has been exactly, I won't speak exactly to that. But my personal take on it is, to me, it's just more tools in the toolbox for designers and more variety for players. When you think of something like Lego, for example, which we've talked about in comparison to Atmosphir a lot in the past, you have Town Lego, Castle Lego, Pirate Lego, Harry Potter Lego, and then you've got these offshoot brands like Duplo and Bionicle and Technic and all that stuff. It doesn't mean that anyone's forcing you to build or play with the pieces that you don't want to. And some of the coolest Lego creations actually happen when you mix things together that aren't supposed to be mixed. So I think a lot of people, their initial reaction when they see that image, they're like, oh no, this is what Atmosphir is coming into. It's going to be, Halo, Space Marines all over the place. This is not what I want it to be. But it's not like all the old stuff is going away. It's just new things to add into the mix. And, some of the most interesting stuff might happen if some of that new stuff is mixed with some of the old stuff. At least that's how I felt when I was playing with Lego, growing up. And, when you think of it, certain things like, if there was a certain block or something that you're not particularly interested in or don't want to play with, then you don't have to. And, you don't have to. No one's forcing you to use these blocks or play with these blocks. And we hope to have different filtering systems in the future as well to sort of help filter out some of this content if these are the type of levels you don't want to play with. I think that's something that will always be an inherent thing that we're working on in Atmosphir is trying to find the best levels for you to play, because that's something that we can certainly improve on. I think, some people, someone said in the forums, I think, for example, I don't like exploration levels, but about a third of Atmosphir levels are exploration based. I would rather just play straight combat levels, or I'd rather only play race levels. And it's kind of definitely more mature content with scarier creatures or sorts of different weapons and things like that. Maybe that doesn't appeal to a younger audience or someone who doesn't want to play those type of levels, that bores them or that's not appropriate for them. Then we want to make sure we have the filtering systems in place to help you, sort of anyone, find the best content for them. And when you mix all these things together, it's kind of difficult, but there's things we could do. We could look at the actual level file and say, okay, if you have put in ammunition for this particular type of weapon, then you can, maybe there's an option to filter those type of levels out from your searches if that's what you so choose to do. So anyway, there's a lot of technical, ways we could get around this. But, as I said, I'm all for it. I think it's really cool to have just more variety and more diversity within, from a designer perspective and from a player perspective, to be honest. And again, what I'm most excited about is not everyone trying to recreate what that image that Martin made, but mixing things up and seeing how that, works within the Atmosphir world. I think that'll be exciting. Speaking about, and people were talking in the forums like, oh, why are you guys complaining? Like talking to the other community members, why are you guys complaining? This is ridiculous, complaints. Forums are always going to be filled with complaints. This is something that over, the 4 years or so that we've been doing Atmosphir is very evident. And, for example, I was looking at the StarCraft 2 forums the other day, and it's just the same thing over and over again. I mean, it's the same thing we see in the Atmosphir forum is people saying, oh, if Blizzard doesn't fix this, I'm going to leave. I'm out of here. This is terrible. This is ruining the game and all this stuff, all this big, dramatic stuff. And it's just a cycle. It always happens. I mean, it's not just us. It's any type of game is going to have this where people have a certain perception of what they want the game to be. And if something changes with that, then, or challenges that, or there's some sort of change, people are always very up in arms and ready to, defend their point of view, which they have every right to. And that's why we have the forums, is for that discussion, to take place. And, particularly when it's done in a civilized manner and people are mature about it, which, not everyone is on either side. As always, there's, we try to moderate things as best we can, but it's not always going to be 100%. But it's also funny because, I think people have different thresholds of what they want in terms of darkness in the game. I've noticed this, over a lot of different games and how far people want to go for sort of darker content. And it's funny because people there's a lot of community members who think the first website theme that we showed, of sort of the darker theme with the dark blue background and all the characters in the background and things like that, that's what they wanted as a sort of a darker image of, Atmosphir. That's what they wanted. And then something like this comes out and they're like, whoa, wait a second, that's too far. That's going too far. Like, that's not the kind of darkness we wanted. And, everyone has their different threshold of what's too dark. And I think what we want to do is just give people the variety and say, without going too far in extreme, there's not going to be blood and guts flying all over the place, for example. We're not going to go that far. At least that's not currently my plan to to move in that direction. But I think that you look at the candy pack, for example, as one extreme, as skewing younger and, sort of more, friendly and less confrontational type of, levels, that sort of thing. Maybe this is the other extreme, and everything in between can also fit within there. And I just don't. I think it's exciting to give players and designers that choice and have that diversity in there. And I don't think it ruins the spirit of the game. I don't think it's it's just more things in the toolbox, more tools in the toolbox to use, and while still staying true to the general creativity and imagination and openness and sort of mainstream acceptance that we try to get with the Atmosphir brand. So that's what we're going for. And when I say the Atmosphir brand, that's something that's always changing. And what we are today is not what we're going to be in 6 months, and what we are in 6 months is not what we're going to be in a year. It's always going to change. We're always going to evolve to where we see the game going. And this is not just my decision; it's a decision of a board of directors. It's a decision of the guys down in Buenos Aires. It's it's listening to what you guys say as well. So it's a bunch of different things. Everyone's making these decisions together, and there's no one right or wrong answer, or one wrong or right definition of what Atmosphir is, because that is a constantly changing thing, at least in our minds. So. Anyway, I hope that addresses that. I'm sure the discussion will continue well on into the coming weeks, but that's just my perspective on it, and I hope that sort of illuminates some of your, some of the questions you might have had, and sort of alleviates some of the fears that you might have had as well. All right, so we'll move into Q&A now. I'll try not to answer. I think I'm going to try not to stop answering when these questions about when is this or that coming out. When are NPCs coming out? When are Bungie's coming out? When's the Saw Blades coming out? All these different things. I think it's like the desktop version launch. I think we're trying to do things more without announcing a due date, because if we do that, then chances are we're not going to get it, and it's going to be pushed back. And quite honestly, priorities change so much here. So if we say, the Bungies are coming out today, and then all of a sudden we decide, wait a second, there's a lot of bugs that have happened with them. The AI isn't smart enough to work on, to add into the live game yet. We still have a few things to do with these. Let's shelf them for now while we work on some other priorities that are much more important, and we can get done in a more efficient manner. So. Those sort of things happen all the time in game development, and we're trying our best, but I'm going to try to stay away from exact release dates and sort of make them more surprises when they come out. But you'll still get coming soon sneak peeks and screenshots and that sort of stuff in the future, so don't worry about that. Mr. Coble says, any more hints on the upcoming ranged enemy? So he's talking about, we talked about in the past about a new ranged enemy that would be shooting at you. And, right now there's only the shaman character, and it'd be nice to have another enemy that shoots at you. And I showed the NPC video I think last week, showing NPCs shooting back at you with some lasers. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a different kind of ranged enemy. And last that I checked, actually, I think we're working on several different ranged enemies right now that will all sort of fit within that sort of futuristic industrial theme that you might have seen in the coming soon stuff that Martin posted. I think it's going to be more along that range. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think all the gameplay characteristics and enemies have been defined yet, but there is. I believe there's more than one on the way. The first concept of sort of the ranged enemy was sort of smaller and not as defined, sort of a simpler AI. And I think we're moving into a few different types of characters and enemies, but no response on no specific due date on those guys yet. So. Entity says, I have some .iAPI level drafts back from the pre-Stratosphere desktop version. Will there be some way to convert them into .atmo files? So what he's basically asking is, excuse me, in the old version of the game, there was the ability to save your drafts and they were saved as a specific file format called IAPI files. And now we're saving drafts as a .atmo file. And he's basically wondering, hey, is there a way that I can take all my old levels and drafts that I worked on and somehow transfer them to Atmo files? And sadly, no, not right now. Not that I'm aware of, at least. And that, it affects a pretty small part of the audience, maybe, a couple hundred people or something like that might want this sort of thing. So I think we have bigger priorities right now that we need to work on. But I feel your pain because I have a lot of old levels and old drafts too. I still have the old version of the desktop, and it would be nice to bring some of those old level designs back in and be able to add some of the new Atmosphir content and free placement and rotation tools and all that stuff to those levels. But sadly, I don't think that's going to happen. So I think you're better off trying to recreate that stuff if possible, using 3D copy and paste and all that stuff, within the new version of the game. So I apologize for that. Nasmus says, do you recognize how much we, the community, appreciate what you and the rest of Miner Studios do? Your dedication and effort inspire me. Oh, thank you very much, Nasmus. Appreciate it. You mentioned that the saws are near complete a couple months ago. Any update on the saws? Well, I won't talk specifically about the time frame when they're coming out or anything like that. But I will say that we do want to add more hazards into the game because I think that's one of the biggest areas that we can improve upon. Not just enemies I'm talking about, but hazards. Right now, we have the different spikes and the owl trap and the firebirds and stuff like that. But if we added more hazards and more things that could, basically kill your player, I think it definitely makes the game more interesting. I think it definitely adds more potential gameplay possibilities. It just really, particularly from sort of a danger perspective, there's always some sort of risk if your health is going to go down or you're going to die or something like that. And I think that what people have done when you think of just the owl spike traps, have you seen all the different things that people have done with those, from putting them in all sorts of different orientations and rotation speeds and making them look like clocks or making them look like, hands, or all the sorts of things that people have done with that is pretty impressive. And I think that's why we need more and more hazards to be able to sort of expand the ways to basically kill you. And I think that's something that we'll be certainly focusing in on during 2011. So that's the plan. Turk Melon says, what are some ways you plan to implement ranks, perhaps unlockable abilities that you can get at certain levels? So I think what Turk Melon is talking about is on the level up page, the new level up screen. When you level up your character, you'll see that you get a little badge icon as well as a name for your rank. So I think I just upload rank like level 14 or something like that, and I think it was called a student, and my rank was called student, and I got this cool little badge as well on the level up screen. Right now, those badges aren't showing up anywhere else. It's only on the level up screen, but we want to change that. We're going to probably add them at the very least to your profile pages within the game and on the website, but maybe in some other places as well. So we'll see. But Yeah, I think, we want to do more with ranks. And in the initial concept for abilities, we did want to have certain abilities locked by levels. So you can't, unlock level 3 of the fire starter until you have reached level 15, for example. That sort of thing. But I don't think that's fully finished yet. But potentially in the future, for future abilities, I think, particularly, new things that we add into the game that might require, that we want to make, cooler abilities that would require more gameplay, and we want, to encourage people to level up their character to that point. There will probably be those sort of things that are level locked or that sort of thing. But nothing's set in stone, really. We're talking about it right now, and we're working on different things. And certainly there will be some really cool new abilities coming out in the rest of the year. So look forward to those. And the final question I'll answer today is from Musaphonics, who says, can we introduce UI themes? So he's talking about, in the game and stuff like that, are you able to change what the user interface looks like? And I think that would be really, really cool. In fact, I think it'd be cool to be able to just choose to add or take away certain UI elements. I mean, yes, you have the lives and health and time and score and the goals and, the bombs and weapons and things like that. But it'd be cool if you have the option to take those on or put them off, or take them off, from a designer perspective, as well as being able to add stuff like a compass or, a little mini map or things like that. I know these have been suggested in the ideas section of the forum, countless times, but, I think that'd be really cool, and giving people, different ways to choose what sort of UI goes into their level, or not have any UI at all, which some people have done with, like, using the letterbox camera thing to sort of fake that a little bit. But it's pretty cool, and I think maybe in the future that sort of stuff will happen, and maybe there'll be different styles as well. It won't just be the current font and styling that we have. Maybe you'll have an option to switch between several different styles to sort of fit the theme of your level and what you're going for. But we'll see how that all goes. So yeah, I think that's it for today then. Thanks guys so much for listening. This is sort of a shorter podcast. I think we ran about 22 minutes or something like that. But anyway, enjoy playing the desktop version. I hope you guys continue and enjoy it, and look forward to next week. We'll be asking you to submit more questions to the podcast, and check us out on Twitter and Facebook, and to ask those questions. But until then, have a great rest of your week and weekend, and we will talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.